Okay, we should be good.
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay. We want to start, first of all, by thanking our sponsor. Tony and Phyllis Lazaro are sponsoring this morning's class on the yard site of Phyllis's mother, Rachel Leah Bas Pesach Ruvain. Her neshama should have an aliyah from the Torah that we're learning today.
Amen.
And
Amen.
Hashem, and for the Kaddishes, we're saying in Shul for her last night and today and later on this afternoon. Amen. Okay, let's put this away. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of Gemara, and then up to you. It could be a lot of halacha. It's going to be up to what you want. After today, you'll give me guidance. Okay, we're starting the new topic. Oop, I have the wrong place. Give me a second. Just, okay. Omar Shmuel. Oh, we did this also. I am sorry. Ran Omar. Give me 1 second. One second. I thought I had the place. I did have the place. Shog Be'erva, Kol Be'isha. Here it is. Here it is. Okay. Omar Rav Sheshis. Rav Sheshis says, Seyar Be'isha Erva. The hair of a woman is considered nakedness as well. It's considered a part of the body that should be covered. Again, what's the intent of this? We've been talking about other topics last week about the voice of a woman, the thigh of a woman, and things like that. So again, the Gemara it's a twofold statement. Number one, a man cannot gaze at the hair of a woman from whom he is forbidden to have relationships with, as quoted in the Shulchan Aruch. And also, a man cannot say the Shema while he can see the hair of any woman, including his wife, even if he's not gazing at it per se. And so they maintain, therefore, that this statement as well, so that fits into that concept. Now, we'll see later on, this prohibition of saying the Shema while in the view of a woman's exposed hair only applies to married women who usually cover their hair as is required by halacha. We'll get more into detail about that. So it doesn't say a married and an unmarried woman. A man is allowed, however, to say the Shema in the presence of an unmarried woman who typically leaves their hair uncovered. Okay, we'll leave the rest for a little bit later. We're going to get into the discussion. But how do we know that it's considered an erva? And we're speaking about a married woman. Shnemar, the pasuk says in Shir Hashirim, as King Solomon discusses the beauty of a woman in regarding to her beloved. So the man would say to the woman, Sa'arech, your hair is ke'eder ha'izim, is like a flock of goats. Okay, and is also discussing how beautiful. It starts the clause saying, Hinoch yafara yasi, you are beautiful, my love. And your hair is like a flock of goats streaming down from Mount Gilad. So again, there is obviously a concept of beauty that is being expressed over here. And it's generally between people who love each other. So that could be understood as a husband and wife. So this is the topic for today, if not longer than today. So what is the issue nowadays? Obviously, why is this so important? So I'm going to stop with this screen and share another screen. Okay. And now we're going to have a serious discussion on this topic. Now, the question is, why should a married woman cover her hair? It's a topic that is I don't know if I want to call it a controversial topic or not. It's just a halacha. So very interesting. The first point There's no pasuk in the Torah that says black and white a woman must cover her hair. Okay? So therefore, right away people will say, oh, I guess you don't have to cover your hair. Torah doesn't say that a woman has to cover her hair. But we see that the rabbis in the Gemara, again, understand the will of God by looking at certain parts of the Torah and understanding situations that are occurring in the Torah. As well, for that matter, there's no direct psukim, that say that you have to wear clothes. There's not one pasuk in the Torah that says you have to wear clothes. So I guess you can go without any clothes. Where does it say in the Torah that you have to wear clothes? Doesn't say it. Okay, but there's certain aspects of tznius that is talked about, and the rabbis understand what that is. But anyway, there's two primary sources for this whole discussion. The first is the sota woman. The sota woman that we've discussed in the past, where the husband is suspicious that she's have extramarital relations. And part of the process is where the Kohen uncovers the woman's head and loosens her hair. And there it is in Perek Hey Pasuk Yud Ches. And the Kohen should stand the woman up before God and uncover. The Pasuk says ufara, which means to undo. She undoes the woman's head and place on her hands the offering of remembrance, as it is an offering of jealousy, and in the hands of the Kohen will be the bitter cursed waters. But the main point in the Pasuk we want over here is ufara es rosh ha'isha. That's the 4 words we're looking at. He shall uncover her head, and reveal her hair. The Gemara in Ksuvas learns from this. Now, why do we have to say he covers her hair? The Gemara understands. Rosh parua doraisahi. When her head is uncovered, it's a matter of Torah law. It's a Torah law. We have to know what that means exactly. Because the pasuk says, upara es rosh ha'isha. He uncovers the head of the woman. So, v'tana devei Rabbi Yishmael, and in the school of Rabbi Yishmael, they taught, ashara lebenos Yisrael, it's a warning to the Jewish women, shlo yetzei bifarua rosh, they cannot go bareheaded, meaning to say, without anything covering their hair. So that's pretty clear. The Gemara is saying that if uncovered hair is a biblical commandment. Now, we have to understand what that means. And Rashi, right on the spot, gives 2 explanations. The first one is, it's in the Hebrew here, the English here. So, Asara, it's a warning. Miravdina lahachi lenavla, since we're doing this to disgrace her. This is it's intentionally to disgrace her. Why? Mida keneged mida, measure to measure. Kamosha asali snas al boala, because she wanted to beautify herself to the person she had the extramarital affair with. So just like you wanted to make yourself look beautiful to this fellow that you should not do, so she's punished measure for measure to disgrace her in public. It's unheard of for a woman to be like that. Michlal, from that we see the osur, that it is prohibited, and uncovered hair is prohibited. That is one interpretation. Inami, another interpretation, B'dichsiv ufara, and he undoes, Michlal, dahu shaita lav paruhabas. That means obviously her hair was not undone as she comes to the Kohen. Shmami, no, we hear from this, Ein derech benos Yisrael, it's not the way of the Jewish women, let's say pruas rosh, to go out with their hair uncovered. And this second interpretation, L'chein ikar, and this one seems to be the primary explanation that Rashi goes with. So what's the difference in the 2 explanations? So let's see. So according to Rashi's first explanation, the Gemara infers a Torah level prohibition. It is an Isser D'Oraisa for a woman to go out with her uncovered hair from the fact that uncovering her head is done to disgrace her. And she's being punished for her sin in uncovering her head illicitly as part of her affair. Obviously, when she's involved in this affair with the man, she uncovers her hair as well. and the Torah makes a special commandment to uncover it in public as part of her ordeal. Okay, so therefore he's saying from the first interpretation, no woman, she's not allowed to do that. And it's a great disgrace, and that's a punishment for her, so to speak, because she uncovered her hair for other men. Rashi's second explanation, we can infer that it's saying that a married woman's hair is covered, but not because the Torah said so, because it's a normative for Jewish women on a Torah level, which means to say that it would, it's something that women are supposed to do. It's part of what we're supposed to do, but not necessarily is it a biblical law. So two interpretations there. If we look further in Rishonim, we're going to see there's a bit of a split over here. The Riaz, Rabbi Yishav Trani, says like this: if she didn't have her head covered, hareza atzura min Torah. It's prohibited biblically. That's straight one of the Rishonim, because it says upara es rosha ish, you uncover her head, and he quotes the Gemara again. Women should not go with their head uncovered. The majority view of, I'm just giving you a sampling of the Rishonim say from this pasuk that we uncover hair, that means Jewish women must have married Jewish women must have their head covered. And the fact we uncover it, it's to disgrace her that she's in a state of not behaving the way the Torah is doing, because she never behaved that way. Okay, there's a minority opinion of Rishonim who say that it's only rabbinic. And this is the Trumas Hadeshen. He says, the Prius Rosh Ba'isha Eina Elas Zihirus B'Derabanan. Covering up a woman's hair is something on a rabbinic level to be careful. The Gemara asks, Hada Parach Tamuda Doraisa, even though the Gemara says that's a biblical, the Gemara asks, how could you violate a biblical mitzvah? So the Gemara says it's not a biblical mitzvah, but remez Doraisa. It's a hint from the Torah. Remember, so the machlokas is like this. The majority opinion look at that Gemara, and by the fact that the Gemara asked the question, I said, the Gemara asked like this: how could the kohen uncover her hair? It's a biblical sin for her hair to go uncovered. Gemara answers, you're right, but this is extenuating circumstances. She acted so improperly, she has to get this punishment. So therefore, most Rishonim learn, the Gemara is saying it's a biblical prohibition. Others say, no, it's rabbinic prohibition, and that's the biblical hint to it. Okay, so this is source number one. Either way, it's prohibited. That's what's important to understand. Nobody learns from this Gemara she may go with her hair uncovered. She has to go with her hair covered, and the only question is it a biblical sin, or is it going against a rabbinic sin? And it doesn't matter if it's rabbinic or biblical, you cannot go uncovered. Now there's a lot.
Rabbi?
Yes,
Rabbi,
sir. Okay,
we got two people with questions here. Okay.
I know there's a lot of questions.
Okay, so I'll go and then Shelley will go maybe. Okay, so
Well,
Rabbi.
I'm just going to get it in.
Okay, so Rabbi, there are some Jews today who seem to feel that a woman should not be wearing a sheitel. She should be wearing maybe something else like a tichel, and a sheitel would be maybe too beautiful. So there's, I know that there are some Jews who feel that way. And what is their source for feeling that way?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
I said it's a big topic. We'll do as much of it as you want. So
okay.
It's on the agenda, but this is a huge topic. We may have to spend the whole week on this. If you want, I'm happy to do it. There's no rush to finish the Masechta. It's not Daf Yomi. Okay, that's a valid question and deserves a good answer. Okay, Shelley.
So many times we say that there was a hint in the Torah, but we say it's halacha l'Moshe Sinai, and here's the hint in the Torah. But we're not saying it's halacha l'Moshe Sinai in this case.
According to the minority opinion. So it's rabbinic.
No, but even times we say it's a biblical commandment, and it was from Sinai, but it's not specific in the Torah, but we see a hint. But we don't. I didn't hear the rabbi say there's a halacha l'moshe
Right,
Sinai.
because according it's not either. There's three things, Shelley. There's either something's black and white in the Torah, and we don't
Right.
need, and that's more than halacha l'moshe Sinai. It's written in the text. Then we
Right.
have it's not written in the text at all, but that's what Hashem told Moshe we got to do, and that's
Right.
biblical. And then you have, well, Hashem never said it's prohibited. The rabbis, as empowered by Hashem, said it's prohibited, and they're looking for a hint to it in the Torah. Okay, so the first two scenarios, it's a biblical prohibition, and the third scenario, it's a rabbinic prohibition. Okay,
So by that explanation, this is rabbinic.
according to the minority view, it's a machlokas how to understand the pasuk. That's the point. The pasuk says the kohen uncovers her hair. So now we got to
That's a
understand.
hint. That's a hint.
Not necessarily, or it could be, since the Torah is writing that, then obviously why does the Torah say he uncovers her hair? Must be all women must cover their hair. Why would the Torah write you have to uncover her hair? Why would it say that if they all go around with their hair uncovered?
Mhm.
So it must be they always went with their, so it's clear they went with their hair covered according to that opinion, right? That it's always covered. So how could that be? So that's where you could see the debate. Well, either some say, well, that's clear that the Torah said you have to have your hair covered. That's the majority opinion.
Would you say that's as clear as not having, milk and meat?
It doesn't matter if the Torah is telling you that. That's the only way you can understand it. Then that's saying it's usher, right? I mean, why would we? If women didn't have to cover their hair, why would we say they uncover their hair? Right? So it's obvious that women covered their hair, and it's not like. And this is if Hashem, who's writing the laws, then it's probably making sense that it's Hashem who wrote the law. He came before the rabbis, right? Must, not again, how do we know any 39 prohibited activities? It's all biblical. Just God didn't write them all. So God doesn't have to say you have to cover your hair. You'll figure it out when I talk about the law of the Sota, who her hair is removed. It's obvious that she had to cover her hair and has to always cover her hair. That's one way of looking at it. Others were saying, no, the Torah is saying this is a normal way of tznius. And a normal way of tznius, just like it says, the Kohen rips her dress. Oh, I guess she should wear a dress too, right? Maybe people can go naked, right? So some say, well, that's just the way of tznius. And it's not really a biblical. So it's either saying, well, most women would cover their hair. So the Torah is speaking about what people did, to be modest, or is it a biblical commandment? That's the issue. That's why many feel it's as if God wrote you have to cover your hair. Others say, no, it's just saying the Torah's writing that's, a proper thing. And then the rabbis took this to understand, really, we should say that it's awesome. So that's either way, it's still prohibited. It doesn't, you have to remember, even if it's rabbinic, it's you still got to keep it unless there's real extenuating circumstances, which we will talk about maybe later on. But that's clear so this is one Gemara, okay? But clear, there's no opinion that says a woman could go with her hair uncovered. There is no such opinion. The question is, biblical or rabbinic? Once it's rabbinic, it's prohibited. That's it. Now there's another Gemara. It's called the concept of Da'as Moshe v'Yehudis. What does this mean? So the Mishnah discussing Ksuvas discusses the following. We know when you marry a woman, you put the ring on her finger, you say, Harei at mikudeshas li kida'as Moshe v'Yisrael, in accordance with the law of Moshe and Israel. And that's written into the ksuva, into the marriage contract. Now, some use the language Kedas Moshe v'Yehudit. Okay, but it's the same thing. The law of Moshe, the Jewish woman. Fine. Now, you know, when you have a contract, in any kind of contract, if anybody breaches the contract, you forfeit the benefits. Everybody knows that. So let's look at a woman's ksuba. A woman's ksuba is a contract. The contract is the husband has to provide her. It's almost all on the husband. He has to provide her with parnasa, clothing, this, that, time, everything. Now, what does the woman have to do? One thing. She has to be a wife, Kedas Moshe v'Yisrael, in accordance with the laws of Moshe and Israel. That's her part of the contract. Question is, what does that mean? What does she have to do that would breach the contract and therefore forfeit her benefits? So this is a Mishnah in Ksuvas, where the Mishnah in Ksuvas discusses situations where the woman has breached the contract, and if the husband wants to, he doesn't have to. If he wants to, he could divorce her, and he doesn't have to hold up his side of the contract of giving her any money and support because she breached the contract. So what is this? So the Mishnah says, one who violates Da'as Moshe, the law of Moshe, or Das Yehudis, or the laws of Judaism, so to speak. Now, there must be two separate things if they're using two separate clauses. So Gemara asks, what is that? What behavior is called Da'as Moshe? So let's say she feeds him food that hasn't been tithed, which is a terrible avera. Or let's say she's a nida, she doesn't tell the husband, and he's intimate with her. That's an Isser Kores. Or let's say she doesn't separate challah. Or let's say she makes vows and they don't keep her vows. We'll see exactly why these are the ones that are chosen. But obviously, she is transgressing certain averos, and the simple understanding is, and these averos are impacting on the husband. If she doesn't tithe, it's like she's serving him food that's not kosher. You see? If the woman doesn't buy kosher, now the husband's not looking, the husband trusts the wife. The husband finds out one day she's been feeding him treif. Says, get out of here. You fed me treif. You didn't go to the mikvah. I thought you told me you went to the mikvah. Right? So that's called violating Das Moshe, where these are biblical laws. She's causing her husband to transgress and violate biblical laws. That's a pretty big breach of the contract. I married you with the assumption that you're going to keep the laws. That's called Das Moshe. What's called Das Yehudit, that's called the laws of Judaism. She goes out and her head is uncovered. Or she spins in the marketplace. And that means when you're spinning, you usually are exposing your full leg, which is not modest. Or she speaks she flirts with other men. Okay. Now now the question is, what's the difference between the two? Okay, so the Rashba explains the following. What's the difference? One can say that whether she violates a real Torah level mitzvah or whether she violates the Jewish practice and the daughters of Israel conduct themselves modestly, the woman leaves the marriage without a ksuba. Thus, the Mishnah specifies that she violates and causes her husband to violate among the mitzvahs of the Torah. Therefore, the Mishnah, the intended meaning of Das Moshe, is really a Torah prohibition. So he explains, Das Moshe is she's causing the husband to sin biblically. That's one cause. And Das Yehudis is modest Jewish conduct. So what is that? And what is one of the examples it gives, guys? She goes with her head uncovered. Okay? So according to this, Rashba considers Das Moshe in this concept referred to Torah level mitzvahs and Das Yehudis to matters of binding custom. Now we're taking it a step lower. Before other Gemaras said, biblical, rabbinic, this now becomes something called binding custom. We'll see what that means. Das Moshe includes situations in which a wife's transgression could also lead her husband to violate halacha. For example, if a woman's not honest about the laws of Nida, she leads both herself and her husband to sin when they're intimate. But Das Moshe doesn't include personal violations of Torah prohibitions. For example, the Torah prohibits a woman from eating shrimp. But if she eats it, that's a personal matter for which she must do tshuva, and she does not forfeit her ksuva. So you see, from this Gemara, it comes out like this. When can a husband divorce a wife? If she does things that causes a stumbling block to the husband to transgress biblical averas, or if she goes against local custom in areas of modesty, not biblical, not rabbinic. If she does other averos, personal averos between her and God, husband cannot divorce her for that as long as it's not affecting him and not affecting the family. And the Rambam gives a similar definition of Das Yehudis, is women's customary modest behavior. He says, what is Das Yehudis? The modest behavior that the daughters of Israel practice. So now, what does that mean?
Rabbi?
Well, let me just give you a little bit more. Just give me one more minute. Just finish this idea, then I'll happily take the question. So all Jews are expected to act modestly. Still, behavior that violates Das Yehudi is considered especially inappropriate for a married woman, regarding whom it may lead to suspicion of extramarital activity. Note that in the Mishnah, head covering falls under the category of Das Yehudi. This categorization makes some sense. It doesn't cause a woman's husband to sin, so it does not fit neatly in the category of Das Moshe. Further categorizing as Das Yehudis highlights the extent to which going barehead might be considered immodest behavior, okay? But you see, it seems to be a little bit of a difference, which we'll get to in a minute. The Gemara is going to say, well, what's going on? I thought it's biblically or rabbinically prohibited. Okay, Shelley, take it away.
No, just don't quite understand. Like, she can go out and eat all the shrimp she wants, and he has to pay her ksuba if he wants to divorce her. But if she goes out with her head uncovered, she forfeits her ksuba.
Right. So you want to know why is that? What's the difference?
It seems illogical.
Okay, let me explain why. The reason you can divorce the woman, what means she breached the contract? Okay, you marry a woman so that she could be your Ezer Kenegdo and will do certain things that Jewish women are supposed to do. One thing is she takes care of the kashrus of the home, she takes care of the family purity of the home, and all that stuff. If she does things that cause the husband directly to sin, you can't have a wife that's causing you directly to sin. That's going against the whole reason you married the woman. Number two, if she dresses immodestly, this can very easily lead to extramarital affairs, which also has a deleterious effect on the marriage. If the woman decides to go to Swiss Chalet with her friends and eat some shrimp, but when she comes home, serves some kosher food, that's an aspect between her and Hashem, and it doesn't necessarily reflect damaging the marriage and the relationship. Now, if she's bringing leftovers from Swiss Chalet and feeds it to the husband, it's a problem. In other words, what the Gemara is saying, Shelley, is precisely the following. If your wife in the house is modest and frum and keeps everything, and doesn't do anything that's extramarital with other men, so the fidelity of the marriage is strong, the home is strong, but her hashkafa privately is off, but she doesn't let it affect the home. So even though, yes, we could say eating treif, so to speak, is a worse avera than having your hair uncovered, but it's the focus is on the relationship of the marriage. Remember, it's a contract in marriage, not a contract in frumkeit. As long as the wife enables the husband to keep all the Torah laws in the house, and there's no possibility of her desecrating her sanctity in terms of marriage, he cannot divorce her. Now, that would mean if a woman tells the husband, listen, I think I want, let's say they're both yeshivish people, okay? And the wife says, I think I'm going to go off the derech, man. I just love to hear secular music, and I love to go out to treif restaurants and all this. Now the question is, does the husband have the unilateral right to divorce her and she loses her ksuva? The answer is no. He could divorce her anyway, but he'd have to pay out a hefty sum of money. What she does, just no different, Shelley, than me and you. We do have averos, don't we? From time to time. We're not going to get divorced over that. So it's between you and God, stays between you and God. Once you let it spill over to affect the husband, then he can divorce her. Now, follow-up question.
Okay, that was a good explanation. I appreciate it. Just one minor point, or maybe major point, though. If we're saying that she goes out without her hair uncovered, it could lead to an extramarital affair. I would say that if she goes out and she's eating shrimp all the time, it's more than likely going to lead to bringing treif into the house. So I think it's probably a more likely event to ruin the home atmosphere than uncovering the hair.
Well, so here's the situation, Shelley, where me and you have to bend our understanding to the way the rabbis understand relationships. The rabbis are saying that, you know what? There will still, when it comes to immorality, the pull is much stronger than other averos. And that we understand. I think we understand that if a woman is already dressing in a way that is provocative, okay, and it's obviously trying to draw attention to other men, then that's a much stronger pull than, and you find, used to find in conservative homes where they say in the house is absolutely kosher and out of the house is absolutely treif. So somehow the rabbis understand that people can make this disconnect between kashrus, but not with immorality. That's what the rabbis are teaching us. Okay. So we have to, that's part of the Chazon Ish says, we have to bend our thinking to the way the rabbis understand. And it makes a difference in terms of halacha. Because, sometimes when we're looking for leniencies under very pressed situations, I'm stressing that. Let's say a child wants to eat by the parents, shalom bayis, and they say they're keeping kosher. Can we believe them or not? We'll more readily believe them for that than issues of morality. So that's something to think about. Okay, time is up. We're in the midst of questions. We haven't answered everything yet, but we've set the groundwork. We've laid out the two fundamental Gemaras. So if you like, we'll continue this topic tomorrow. And we didn't forget Tony's question, but we're about 5 steps ahead of it. So we got to do a few steps before that to get to that. Okay, we'll stop it over there. Everybody have a very good rainy day.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sei gesund.
Bye-bye.
Shkoyach.